Well, good afternoon and welcome once again to Ed's Orchids. Now, I said yesterday that today I'll be looking at some Phragmipediums, so I thought we'd just have a look at a few, probably 7 or 8 of them, and have a look what they're doing. Well, as you know, these plants come from the north of South America, Peru, Guatemala, Mexico, all over that area, and they virtually all require the same conditions. It's not worth changing one from the other, so keep them all exactly the same. They all like plenty of water, and the water has got to be either rainwater or all water, because these type of plants are very, very sensitive to salts. And being sensitive to salts, they don't require much feed. They're very, very light feeders, contrary to what you've probably read and what you've probably heard from other people. But I don't feed these very much. I just give them a touch of fish blood and bone, which is a very, very slow release fertiliser, twice a year. I've just given these some fish blood and bone, so they won't be done till next next May, April, May, something like that. So the only thing they'll get up to them is some fresh or all water. They like a fairly bright light. Filtered sunlight will do nicely, but no direct sunlight. And they like sort of, as I said, intermediate temperatures. And they also like good air circulation. As for the media, I just use bark, and if I've got some growth stones I'll throw them in because they're no longer available, and lodge perlite, and that's all they need. It's got to be sort of fast draining, so you can water these you can water these every 2 or 3 days, or really you could water them every day. But they are susceptible to root rot if the medium they're in is no longer fresh. So they need a good fresh media, and they need good water, and it needs to be wet all the time, but it needs to be good draining. I hope you can understand that. Makes sense to me, and I hope it makes sense to you as well. So we'll just have a look at a few of the plants. Well, this one in front of you now is a Phragmipedium grande cross with caudatum. Now, grande is a cross, well, it's a primary cross between caudatum and longifolium. So this has been crossed back to caudatum, which will give it very, very long petals on the blooms. You know, they'll be really long, and they probably hang down over 2 to 3 feet. That's when it flowers. I find this very, very slow, but this is a new growth, so I'm hoping this one will produce the next blooms. Let's have a look round at the bottom. There's nothing coming up there, nothing there, and nothing round there. So this is a new this is the new growth, and where I'm expecting the blooms to come from next. This one is a Cavacii cross, and it's a cross with living fire. So this is a cross between Sorcerer's Apprentice, Bessie, caudatum and longifolium, and it's a Phrag cross living fire. This is the new growth on it. I got this, it wasn't in flower, it just finished flowering with one growth on it. There you can see where the old spike was coming from. It's doing very, very nicely. This new growth is beautiful, and also it's coming up with another 2 new growths there. So I'm very hopeful for this one because they're absolutely beautiful. That is Phragmipedium cavachii cross living fire 4N. I put lining flower there, haven't I? It should be living flower fire. Oh well, and it's a cross. Where are we? Should be on here, yeah. Sorcerer's Apprentice and Bessie, which is a living fire. And this one is the Phragmipedium Fritz Schomburg, and you can see it's got a nice spike on here, and it's very, very slow budding up, but I can feel something in there. And if you remember, this one was growing out of the pot, being crossed with cavachii and Bessie. And with being Bessie, which is a climbing plant, it was coming out of the pot, and there was some roots showing, but there's nothing to cling on to. So if you remember, I built all this up. So we'll just have a look, see what it's like now. See if there's any new root growth there. I can't see any there. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's see if we can get rid of some of this and have a look. Yeah, there you can see some nice new root growth going. So I'm quite happy with that one. I'll keep it covered up a little bit, although I don't like using moss, but in these cases it's sometimes necessary to get what you want. So that's Phragmipedium Fritz Schomburg. Now this is a nice little plant doing very, very well, and it's a Phragmipedium Warsawixianum. Show you the label. That might confuse people, but I think up to the 1970s it was called Warsawixianum. No, it was called Wallacei. Wallacei, that's it. So around about 1972, 73, it reverted to the correct name of Warsawixianum. And this is growing very nicely. Nice new growth there. Nice leaves coming up at the bottom. And this is only quite a small plant. Small plant, but when it does flower, they're absolutely gorgeous. It puts out some lovely blooms with exceptionally long petals on them. You know, you have to prop the plant up on another plant so the petals can hang freely. Absolutely beautiful. It's one of the long flowering petal Phragmipediums. Absolutely gorgeous these are when they do flower. Now this is Phragmipedium Las Varinus that I'm having a little bit of trouble with. Just look at the mark on the leaves. Unbelievable. And if I turn them over, you can see a lot of white marks on them, but won't rub off. So it's something actually in the leaf. And I think I might have to use some sort of systemic stuff to get rid of that. Or to begin with, I'll give it a good spray with that garlic, hot chilli and black pepper mixture. So you can see that underneath the leaf as well. So I'm keeping this away from the others just in case. I'll not give it a spray with that stuff just yet while I'm in the greenhouse, but I will do it once I finish filming, and I'll give it a good spray with the stuff and see what happens. Now this is going to be a very big plant, and this is the Phragmipedium Periflora Saltimbanco, I think that's what it's called, and this is a cross between, let's have a look at the label. Well, yeah, Frag Saltimbanco and it's a cross between Cavacii and Zooiacowianum. Zooiacowianum. Oh, that's a good one on me. Well, that's what I printed on the back of the label, but it's now got an accepted name, not Zooiacowianum, but Boisserianum. I don't know why they keep changing things like that, but it makes it a little bit more difficult to us. But this is a big plant, and this was sold to me a few months ago because it had never flowered. Wanted to know if I could do anything with it, but there's a new growth coming up here, as you can see. I can get down properly. Yeah, the new growth coming up there, and that's about as far as it's got since I've had it. So we'll see if we can get this in flower sometime, because the flowers are sort of a, well, apart from the Cavacii in it, they're sort of a greenish colour with a bit of yellow in, and the unusual thing about it is that the sepals at the sides stick out and then suddenly drop horizontally and they twist. So that could be interesting. I won't lift this plant up because it's a Lasverinus, and as you know they grow very tall, and this has got one, two, I think it's 3 buds on top, 2 showing and 1 still in. Here we are. You can see the size of the buds are quite big. Beautiful big flowers these. Another one there and another one in there. So that's 3. So if we get 3 out at the same time on this one, that would look very nice. That's Phragmipedium lasverinus, cross between Cavacii and Sargentianum. Here's another grandie that's doing very nicely, putting up plenty of new growth. You see down there, plenty of new growth coming up on these. These are quite easy, but for some reason this year I've had a terrible time with Phragmipediums. They haven't flowered or shown signs of flowering at all. The only things that have flowered this year was the Olaf Gruss and the Lasverinus. So I don't know what's going on, but hopefully this winter will sort things out. Now this Phragmipedium, although it doesn't look particularly nice, it's a Frag cardinale, and it's putting up some nice new growths here. And the beauty about this, especially this one, you just cannot overwater them. So you can water these as much as you want. They absolutely love it. They're a cross between Sedenii and Schlimii, and the flowers on them, well, you've got to look them up on the web. They're absolutely gorgeous. It's a primary hybrid, and it's Phragmipedium cardinale. This is only a young plant that I bought it 2 or 3 years ago as a small one, and it's Cerulea alca, and it's a cross between Cavacii and Andrettii, and this is coming up with a nice new leaf growing there in the middle, and a nice new growth coming up there. And these are absolutely beautiful, sort of a, not a very big flower, and a beautiful very, well, you could call it a deep orange colour, something like that, going on to the reddish side, but they're beautiful. Phragmipedium Cerulea alca. Well, that's been a look at some of the Phragmipediums I've got. I hope you've enjoyed looking at that, and until next time, thanks to all the people who have watched this video. Thank you to all my subscribers, and until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.